The real de ocho, also known as the Spanish dollar, the 8-real coin, or the piece of 8, is a silver coin, of approximately 38 mm diameter, worth 8 reals, that was minted in the Spanish Empire after 1598. Its purpose was to correspond to the German thaler. The Spanish dollar was widely used by many countries as international currency because of its uniformity in standard and milling characteristics. Some countries countersigned the Spanish dollar so it could be used as their local currency. The Spanish dollar was the coin upon which the original United States dollar was based, and it remained legal tender in the United States until the Coinage Act of 1857. Because it was widely used in Europe, the Americas, and the Far East, it became the first world currency by the late 18th century. Aside from the US dollar, several other existing currencies, such as the Canadian dollar, the Japanese yen, the Chinese yuan, the Philippine peso, and several currencies in Latin America, were initially based on the Spanish dollar and other 8-real coins. Diverse theories link the origin of the dollar symbol to the columns and stripes that appear on one side of the Spanish dollar. The term peso was used in Spanish to refer to this denomination, and it became the basis for many of the currencies in the former Spanish colonies, including the Argentine, Bolivian, Chilean, Colombian, Costa Rican, Cuban, Dominican, Ecuadorian, Guatemalan, Honduran, Mexican, Nicaraguan, Paraguayan, Philippine, Puerto Rican, Peruvian, Salvadoran, Uruguayan, and Venezuelan pesos. Millions of Spanish dollars were minted over the course of several centuries. They were among the most widely circulating coins of the colonial period in the Americas, and were still in use in North America and in Southeast Asia in the 19th century. History. Etymology of dollar equals. In the 16th century, Count Hieronymus Schlick of Bohemia began minting coins known as Joachim's thalers, named for Joachimsthal, the valley in the Ore Mountains where the silver was mined. Joachimsthaler was later shortened to taler, a word that eventually found its way into Norwegian, Danish and Swedish as daler, Russian as nth degree thth micron n euro, Czech and Slovene as tola, Polish as taler, Dutch as daelder, Amharic as talari, Hungarian as tala copyright R, Italian as talero, Greek as talero, Spanish talero and English as dollar. The Joachim's thalers weighed 451 troy grains of silver. So successful were these coins that similar thalers were minted in Burgundy in France. The Burgundian cross thaler depicted the Cross of Burgundy and was prevalent in the Burgundian Netherlands that were revolting against the Spanish King and Duke of Burgundy Philip II. After 1575, the Dutch revolting provinces replaced the currency with a daelder depicting a lion, hence its Dutch name Leeuwendaelder. Specifically to facilitate export trade, the Leeuwendaelder was authorized to contain 427.16 grains of .750 fine silver, lighter than the large denomination coins then in circulation. Clearly it was more advantageous for a Dutch merchant to pay a foreign debt in Leeuwendaelders rather than in other heavier, more costly coins. Thus, the Leeuwendaelder or lion dollar became the coin of choice for foreign trade. It became popular in the Middle East, and colonies in the East and West. They also circulated throughout the English colonies during the 17th and early 18th centuries. From New Netherland the lion dollar spread to all 13 colonies in the West. English speakers began to apply the word dollar also to the Spanish peso or piece of 8 by 1581, which was also widely used in the British North American colonies at the time of the American Revolution, hence adopted as the name of the U.S. monetary unit in the late 18th century. Spain After the introduction of the Guldengroschen in Austria in 1486, the concept of a large silver coin with high purity eventually spread throughout the rest of Europe. Monetary reform in Spain brought about the introduction of an 8-real coin in 1497. In 1537 the Spanish escudo gold coin was introduced, which was worth 16 reals. The later gold doubloon was worth 32 reals or 2 escudos. It is this divisibility into 8 which caused the silver coins to be named pieces of 8. In the following centuries, and into the 19th century, the coin was minted with several different designs at various mints in Spain and the New World, having gained wide acceptance beyond Spain's borders. thanks to the vast silver deposits that were found in Mexico and Potosi in modern-day Bolivia, and to silver from Spain's possessions throughout the Americas. Mints in Mexico and Peru also began to strike the coin. The main New World mints for Spanish dollars were at Potosi, Lima, and Mexico City, and silver dollars from these mints could be distinguished from those minted in Spain by the Pillars of Hercules design on the reverse. In the 19th century, the coin's denomination was changed to 20 reals and finally to escudos. Spain's adoption of the peseta in 1869 and its joining the Latin monetary union meant the effective end of the last vestiges of the Spanish dollar in Spain itself. However, the 5 peseta coin was slightly smaller and lighter but was also of high-purity silver. In the 1990s, commemorative 2,000 peseta coins were minted, similar in size and weight to the 8 reals and also with high fineness. Mexico Following independence in 1821, Mexican coinage of silver reals and gold escudos followed that of Spanish lines until decimalization and the introduction of the peso. The Mexican 8 reals coin continued to be a popular international trading coin throughout the 19th century. After 1918, the peso was reduced in size and fineness, with further reductions in the 1940s and 1950s. However, 2, 5 and 10 peso coins were minted during the same period with sizes and fineness similar to the old peso. Ireland and British colonies. The term cob was used in Ireland and the British colonies to mean a piece of 8 or a Spanish-American dollar, because Spanish-American gold and silver coins were irregularly shaped and crudely struck during this period. Australia. When the colony of New South Wales was founded in Australia in 1788, it ran into the problem of a lack of coinage. In 1812, Governor Lachlan Macquarie took the initiative of using £10,000 in Spanish dollars sent by the British government. To prohibit use outside the colony and to double the number of coins, they simply punched out the centres of the coins. Both the central plug and rims were stamped with a sunburst. The punched centres were valued at 15 pence and the outer rims became 5-shilling pieces. The mutilated coins became the first official currency produced specifically for circulation in Australia. The experiment was, however, short-lived. The British Parliament passed the Sterling Silver Money Act in 1826 which officially ended the legitimacy of use of the holy dollar and dump in Australian colonies. United States. The Coinage Act of 1792 created the United States Mint, but the first U.S. dollars were not as popular as the Spanish dollars, which were heavier and were made of finer silver. Indeed, by far the leading specie coin circulating in America was the Spanish silver dollar, defined as consisting of 387 grains of pure silver. The dollar was divided into pieces of 8, or bits, each consisting of 1/8 of a dollar. Spanish dollars came into the North American colonies through lucrative trade with the West Indies. The Spanish silver dollar had been the world's outstanding coin since the early 16th century, and was spread partially by dint of the vast silver output to the Spanish colonies in Latin America. More important, however, was that the Spanish dollar, from the 16th to the 19th century, was relatively the most stable and least debased coin in the Western world. An 8 real coin nominally weighed 550.209 Spanish grains, which is 423.900 troy avoirdupois grains, 0.930555 fine, so contained 0.821791 troy ounces or 394.460 grains fine silver. Its weight and purity varied significantly between mints and over the centuries. In contrast, the Coinage Act of 1792 specified that the U.S. dollar would contain 371 for a 16-grain pure or 416-grain standard silver. This specification was based on the average weight of a random selection of worn Spanish dollars which Hamilton caused to be weighed at the Treasury. The coins had a nominal value of 8 reals. Before the American Revolution, owing to British mercantilist policies, there was a chronic shortage of British currency in Britain's colonies. Trade was often conducted with Spanish dollars that had been obtained through illicit trade with the West Indies. Spanish coinage was legal tender in the United States until the Coinage Act of 1857 discontinued the practice. the pricing of equities on U.S. stock exchanges in $1 denominations persisted until the New York Stock Exchange converted first to pricing in sixteenths of a dollar on June 24, 1997, and shortly after that, to decimal pricing. Asia equals. Long tied to the law of piracy, pieces of 8 were manufactured in the Americas and transported in bulk back to Spain, making them a very tempting target for seagoing pirates. The Manila galleons transported Mexican silver to Manila in the Spanish Philippines, where it would be exchanged for Philippine and Chinese goods, since silver was the only foreign commodity China would accept. In Oriental trade, Spanish dollars were often stamped with Chinese characters known as chop marks, which indicated that particular coin had been assayed by a well-known merchant and determined to be genuine. The specifications of the Spanish dollar became a standard for trade in the Far East, with later Western powers issuing trade dollars, and colonial currencies such as the Hong Kong dollar, to the same specifications. The first Chinese yuan coins had the same specification as a Spanish dollar, leading to a continuing equivalence in some respects between the names yuan and dollar in the Chinese language. Fiction. In modern pop culture and fiction, pieces of 8 are most often associated with the popular notion of pirates. Fictional portrayals. In Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island, Long John Silver's parrot had apparently been trained to cry out, "Pieces of 8." This use tied the coin to fictional depictions of pirates. Deriving from the wide popularity of this book, pieces of 8 is sometimes used to mean money, or a lot of money, regardless of specific denomination. In Pirates of the Caribbean, at World's End the pirate lords must meet together by presenting the 9 pieces of 8, since these pieces were used to seal the goddess Calypso in her human form by the First Brethren court. As the pirate lords were, at the time of sealing Calypso into her human form too poor to offer real Spanish dollars, they opted to use personal talismans instead, except for the 9th piece of 8, which was an actual piece of 8 that is hanging off his bandana in all movies. In Neal Stephenson's The Baroque Cycle numismatics, gold and pieces of 8 are an integral part of the plot. In Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe, pieces of 8 are also mentioned among the types of currency that the title character encounters. Pieces of 8 are the currency used in the video game Puzzle Pirates and the In the Monkey Island game series. Pieces of 8 is the 8th studio album and second concept album by Styx, released on September 1, 1978. See also, doubloon, Spanish escudo, columnarios, Maria Teresa Tala, piastre, holy dollar. References. External links, Hispan Collections, Hispan 1776, Information on columnarios, the colonial coinage of Spanish America, an introduction by Daniel Frank Sedic.